Hello, everyone. I'm back today, and today we're talking about Eastern etiquette. So, you guys know, as many of you guys know, I was born and raised in the United States, and my parents were from Pakistan. And I spent a lot of time going back home to spend time with my grandmother and kind of learning the culture. We used to spend almost every summer over there, and I spent a whole year with my grandmother when I was in fourth grade. So, that gave me a really great foundation of learning both my cultural heritage, our values, and as well as all of the Eastern etiquette skills. I will say that my Eastern etiquette skills that I was taught by my grandmother, my parents, my aunts, and uncles translated really, really well into the Western world. So I thought I would share some of those skills with you. So, number one thing that I learned from my grandmother, from my own mother, was hospitality. So, in my culture, we believe that how you make everyone else feel in your presence is the number one key to good etiquette. It's not what you're wearing, it's not if you know how to use your spoons and knives and where the glass goes. None of that matters if the people around you don't feel comfortable, if they feel awkward. So, the way that we practice this in my culture is that every single person that comes to your house, you offer them something to eat and drink. Also, you make sure that everyone that came into your house has food and drink first before you serve yourself. So I still practice this. I live in the United States, and even let me give you an example. Anytime we've gotten coats out of Thumbtack, where we have people come in and we're gonna have work done, we always offer them food and drink, and they're always surprised because they say, they've never had that happen. But that's just kind of my Eastern etiquette skills. So that was a big one. You always offer. And in fact, my mother used to say that if you're going into a restaurant to eat and there's anyone that's outside, like a homeless person or something like that, you make sure that you offer them food too. So you can give them money, or you can say, hey, did you want me to get you something to eat? And you make sure that everyone has eaten and that you're not just eating, right? This is really interesting because back in Chicago, where I'm from, I was born and raised there. I had this one friend, and we were very close. And we went to her mother needed some advice, and my mom and I went to her house once. And the kids in the house, my friend and her brother, went into the kitchen and got food for themselves and sat down and started eating their food. And my mother just couldn't believe it because that is such a strong etiquette in my culture that you always offer food. That's a big, 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 big no no. So, good hospitality, everyone else feels comfortable. You serve everyone else before you sit down to eat. Number one. Number two etiquette skill, this is really important in my culture, is that you greet everyone. When you go to someone's house, when you meet someone on the street, when someone comes over to your house, this is something we teach our children. It's a very big foundational kind of etiquette skills in my culture, that you greet everyone. You don't leave people out. You don't have your head down. You greet everyone. So that was a big one. I want to share a third one that I think is not as common, but it's a really great one, and I definitely want to share this with you. So, I learned this when I was younger, before I had gotten married, from my cousin. So, we were at a party once, and my cousin's sister, my other cousin, had she had like five or six really, really young kids. And she was really struggling at a party because she was trying to get all of her kids fed and like go get food herself. And my cousin, the one that was standing with me, was quite upset at this. And she's like, look at her husband. He just went and he served himself. And there she is struggling. Let's go help her. So we went and we, helped her children and everyone get food. Usually at parties, at the parties that, in our family, there's a big buffet and everyone kind of helps themselves. And as you can see, this can be kind of challenging with the young kids. So later on, I was very curious about this. So I asked my cousin, I was like in my very early 20s, I said, what does she mean about like that being bad etiquette on her husband's part? And my cousin said that the way it works is, at home, you serve your husband, you make him a plate. So in my culture, women don't normally cook and clean. Back in Pakistan, everyone has tons of maids. Even like people we would consider poor people, they have cleaning ladies. Only the poorest of the poor people don't have maids or like help at home. So generally women there spend time managing their staff and like, doing childcare and things like that. But they don't typically, they're not the ones typically cleaning and cooking. But when their husband comes home, they will make their husband a plate from the food that someone else cooked. So that's kind of your husband feeling like the king of the house. So my cousin went on to say that, but when you're out in public, your husband is the one that's got that container of security around you. So when you're out in public at a party, your husband makes sure that you and your kids have food first, and then he sits down to eat. And I was like, wow, that is so interesting, because I had definitely seen some people doing it and not others. And she said that that was a sign of a man from a good family. So interestingly enough, when I married my husband, Irfan, that's kind of how it is for us, and we didn't have to discuss it or anything. When we're at home, I'll make him tea. I'll, even if he cooked, I'll make him a plate of the food. But when we're out at parties, my husband always makes sure that I have food first, the kids have food, and then he'll go get food and sit down. Strangely enough, his friends will notice this and then come and ask their wives if they need any help and if their kids need food. So this is really great, because I always tell you guys that men learn from other men how to behave and how to be. So when one man is doing that, it creates a ripple effect of that masculine energy kind of looking out for feminine energy. So I thought I'd put this in there because this isn't one that's like commonly known, but I'm so grateful that my cousin taught me this, because I was able to instantly notice that in other couples. That one couple that I told you guys about that really inspired me wanting to have like that really traditional marriage, back in Chicago, they always did that. I noticed that when I would go to their house, she would serve her husband dinner and make him tea. But when we were out, he would always make sure that her and our kids had the food first, and then he would sit down to eat. So it's quite interesting how these ways of being and etiquette skills get passed down generation to generation. So I thought I would share kind of with you our culture and our etiquette skills. I would love to hear from you in the comments any etiquette skills that you learned that are kind of like non-British, nothing against like that British charm school kind of thing, but I know that that's not the only way. And that gets a lot of media attention because of royalty, British royalty. And so I feel like all of the other etiquette skills are very underrepresented, but they are so much more valuable. Honestly, if I'm being completely honest with you guys right now, that whole thing of the number one etiquette principle that I was taught, that making sure that everyone around you is comfortable, asking and making sure that they're well and they'll have their food, helped me when I was rotational dating. Every single man that I dated, I was aware of, you know, waiting for him to get his food, or like making sure that everyone else is comfortable before I just started eating, and they all noticed that. So that's what gets that gut level response. No one cared that I didn't know how to use a proper fork and knife. No one cared about that. That's not going to get a gut level reaction unless you're royalty, I guess, then it matters. For everyday people like you and I, no one's going to notice that, but people will notice how you make them feel, and whether you genuinely have heart and care about the people around you, whether you greet everyone, whether you're kind and gracious. And that translates into your being, not so much in your doing. So it was these exact Eastern values that helped me so much in my practical everyday life. And so I thought I shared them. In the comments, let me know what culture you're from and what are some of the etiquette skills that you learned that aren't around those table manners. I'm so over that. That's the only thing being, I guess, sold as etiquette on social media. And that's not the only way. It's not the only way. I want to hear something unique. Can we hear something different that you learned from your culture that has really served you in real life? I love you. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.